Hello and welcome back. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the most important parts of the Bannerlord PC Gamer article that was not leaked but revealed on Imgur around 10 days ago. And I said I would make a video on this, and I guess this is kind of late, but there's still a lot of stuff I want to speak about in the article. Before we begin, I would like to recommend you guys to my new second channel, which can be found in the description. I'll be playing games such as Arma with my friends. I think it's good to separate out the more modern style games such as Arma from the medieval and historical games such as Mount & Blade, Mordhau, Kingdom Come Deliverance, etc., which will remain on this channel. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin. On the opening cover, we can see a sturgeon charging into battle on his horse, which appears to be maybe a courser or one of the new horses we will see in the game. He is wielding a one-handed battle axe by the looks of things, and he's got the classic Nord helmet on his head. One of the first things that's talked about is the level or progression system, where it says it is vastly improved and in many ways much deeper and more fun. We have traits, skills and perks that work together in an interesting and unique way. Each skill has its own kind of XP category and is exercised individually. For example, you improve the tracking skill by finding older and more difficult to find tracks. This basically means we're going to be able to improve a skill depending on how easy or how hard something is. So they use the context of tracking. If someone is really hard to track, maybe a small party, and then you find them eventually, that's going to improve your tracking skills more than finding a huge army, for example. Because a large army is a lot easier to track than a small band of looters. The next part was actually on the last page, but I felt like it was probably more interesting and more important than everything else on the article, so I decided to mention it as one of the first things, and it goes as follows. As a little bit of an addition, in the bottom left-hand side of this page, it does a little bit of a faction overview. It says the Calradic Empire, a diminished once dominant empire now locked in a three-way civil war, specializes in armored cataphracts and skilled archers. It then goes on to say the Valandians, raiders of the Empire's western coast, have now established a kingdom on imperial land, specializing in knights wielding swords and lances. So these are kind of come from lands more to the west. They've landed in Calradia and set up a kingdom, and I think they're harassing the Calradic Empire as well. It goes on to say the Sturgeons, the natives of the northern forest and traders and adventurers from the far north, specializes in infantry fighters, in shield walls, and that kind of axe-wielding combat. We have the Asarai, desert people who form at Oasis, I'm not really sure, springs and the shores of the Great Southern Lake, specializes in fast-moving medium cavalry with spears. Goes on to say the Britannians, inhabitants of the northwestern Calradia, hold up in the mountains after imperial expansion. It specializes in forest warfare and the use of longbows. So this implies that the imperial expansion of the Calradic Empire, they were kind of forced to take refuge in the mountains in order to not be crushed by the Empire. But now, obviously, that's in a civil war and they're fighting each other. It goes on to talk about the Khuzaits, who are swept out of the eastern steppes and seized a chain of frontier training city-states for themselves, specializes in deadly, fast-moving horse archers. And I think this proves my theory that they have come from eastern lands. It feels like they have moved across, and I did say this multiple times, and now I'm so happy that one of my theories is kind of come to light and could potentially be true, which is awesome. I'm really happy with that. Moving on to the second page, it says, in Warband, you could visit villages and attempt to rally volunteers to your cause. In Bannerlord, troops are provided by important NPCs. The better your relationship with that person, the more soldiers you'll receive for your gold. Now, important NPCs could be village elders, or they could be marshals in castles, for example. I'm not entirely sure whether or not we're going to have the normal warband recruitment system where you can go around villages recruiting people, or whether or not you have to go to that region's castle, and depending on the relationship with the Lord will depend on how many troops you get. This could also be applicable with village elders. The better relationship you have with village elders, the more peasants they could give you for your army. In the bottom right hand corner of the page, it reads, not only is Bannerlord attempting to increase the complexity of new scenarios, but their generation is now based on what's happening out in the world. That means you'll only get a quest to hunt down bandits if a settlement has a bandit problem. This basically means quests are more applicable than they were in Warband, so You can only get certain quests when certain problems are happening. They use the context of bandits, or you could use the context of lords. Say there's a minor house in a faction that's gone rogue. A quest may appear for you to go ahead and either talk to that lord and try and persuade him to come round, or defeat him in battle and take over his lands. Moving on to the second page, it describes how making friends with an NPC or getting better relations with an NPC won't just improve how many troops you can recruit, for example. It also says you can use certain services that they offer. For example, if you need someone to be kidnapped, it will be a lot easier if you have some friendly NPCs in the town of the person that you want to kidnap. And this service is based on the type of NPC you befriend. For example, I've used that word a lot. Let's say, for instance, merchant NPCs will give you an advantage in trading. A gang leader can give you advantages in special operations. It briefly talks about tournaments, saying that each side will wield the same equipment. Having different equipment on each side in tournaments for Warband was quite a infuriating instance, because if you had a bow against a lance, the lance would win almost every time. It also says that you are able to win armor in tournaments, which is really cool. There's something very interesting at the top of the third page, I think. It says, when you start a Bannerlord campaign, one of the other world powers will be openly hostile to you. There was a very good quote that I saw to the bottom of the third or fourth page. It says, it's clear from what I've seen in Bannerlord, it's not revolutionizing Mount & Blade Warband. This is a major progression of the series, focused primarily on tweaks and improvements. And I think they have been working on almost all of the aspects of the game, trying to improve the ones that were in Warband instead of completely revolutionizing it. So we kind of get what we had in Warband, but better, rather than a completely new game. One more interesting thing I saw was that the developers said that the character development system alone has been reworked 3 times from scratch. I think developers are just really perfectionists. They want this game to be absolutely brilliant upon release, and for everybody to be kind of receiving a game that they expected. Which I think is completely plausible, and to be perfectionist is not a bad thing. I mean, we do not want a game that's buggy. And I think the complete reworking and rethinking of ideas that have been put into the game is probably why it's taking so long. And again, I don't really see too much of a problem by that. Afterwards, it does say that they are annoyed about not meeting their 2016 target, but they really do hope that they will release the game in some format by the end of this year, which is very promising, but we cannot expect anything, and I'm not saying that it's going to be out by the end of this year. I just hope there's some form of demo or playable format that we will see by the end of 2017. Anyway, I think that will do it for this video. Make sure to go down in the description and find the links to my new channel, where I'll be playing some more modern style games with my friends that you've seen in many of my Mount & Blade and Armor videos on this channel. Also my Discord, my Twitter, all of the important social media links, etc. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an absolutely brilliant day, and I will see you in the next one.